Okay, so what we're going to do in the next few videos is we're just going to add a bit of gloss and variation and things to the header. If I just bring up the finished file, I'll show you what I mean. For instance, we have the highlight effect going on across the top here. We have just a line of a darker colour diagonally across here, which is quite subtle to see. What I'll do is I'll just boost that for now so we can see it more clearly. There we go. It's just basically a black area of faded colour. That just adds a bit of variation to the header. Just take that back down to 25%. And we also have here just a pattern of beveled squares. Just add a nice texture to the header. So we'll go through and put these three different features onto ours. Now, what they do is they're going to give you an idea of things that you can do on these headers, rather than just leaving them flat and plain like we have at the moment. But they're not necessarily something that you would want to add to every header you do, for example. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and add them, but bear in mind that you can add some of these, all of these, or none of these to sort of future headers that you may do yourself. Okay, so we'll just minimize this. And the first thing we'll do is put that header variation layer on, which was just the darker color that was here. So first of all, we need to create a new layer. Now I'm going to create that just above the header gradient layer here, because we don't want it to be underneath, yet we don't want it to be above the content or the bar or anything. So you just select the header gradient layer and click create new layer, and double click on there just to name the layer. We'll call it header variation. You can call that anything you like, really, as long as you remember what it is, something that works for you. So that's good. So as I said, basically what it is just a black shape turned on an angle and given a bit of blur and then taken the opacity down. So that's exactly what we're going to create now. So the first thing we need is the black colour. If I just click the select foreground layer, change that down to black. Okay. And what we need is just a patch of black colour. So we'll use the rectangle tool for that. So if I click and hold this down and just highlight the rectangle tool, making sure up here that we have the fill pixels option selected, and the rest of these are fine. Anti-aliasing can be off, so that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to draw by clicking and holding down. I'm just going to draw a quite a thick line of black. It doesn't matter that for this moment it's going to be a little bit too long. There we go, it's just there now. It doesn't matter that it's very long because we're going to delete the bits that we don't want soon anyway. So that's fine. So if we select the move tool, we can move this up to where we need it, around about here. This will move, so it's only approximate at the moment. So what we need to do next is to get this on a 45-degree angle, so it's not just straight up and down like this. Now the easiest way to do that is to, on the keyboard, if we hold down Control and press T, like so, this brings up these handles around the rectangle. Now if we were to grab, say for example, this one on the right hand side here, you can see that the cursor changes, and that enables us just to drag this layer out. What we're doing is we're transforming the layer. So if I just take that back to something like what we want, if for example we grabbed the bottom one here and hold down the button, we could size that up if we needed to. But what we want to do is rotate this layer. So what we're going to do is, first of all, I'll just show you how to do it in a freeform way. What we do is we take the icon down to somewhere just outside the transform area, and as you can see it just changes to this one here, which indicates that we can rotate both ways. And we do that by clicking down the left mouse button, holding that down, and just rotating this layer around like so, until we get something like what we need, which would be around 45 degrees. Now if I'll just undo that, Control and Z, just to show you another way of doing that. Instead of actually grabbing and moving, more accurately we can just type in 45 degrees up here in the tool options, in this area here, which has the degrees mark there, a little angle thing to show us what's what. So if we type in 45 degrees for now, as we can see, that's actually tilted it 45 degrees clockwise. So what we need to do is make that minus 45 degrees just to get it tilted the other way, and that's fine, that's exactly what we want. So if we press enter to apply that transformation, and still with the move tool selected up here, what we can do is we can again move that around and position it approximately where we want. Something like there will be nice. We can move this later, of course. The next thing we need to do is to add the Gaussian blur onto there, just to get rid of this harsh edge. So we do that by going up here to filter, and we select blur and Gaussian blur from there. Now your settings in here will probably greatly vary, so I mean, for example, it might be set to 3. What you can see is that just adds a very soft blur to the edge of our layer, which is nowhere near enough what we need. So if we just change this up to 40 pixels, what you can see that does, that actually puts a blur around the edge of the layer of 40 pixels, which is nice. It's a nice subtle soft edge. So if we OK that, that's good. The next thing we need to do is, as you can see at the top here, this black layer now goes up and out of the header and over the bevel, which is something that we don't want. So we're going to do, as we did before, we're going to load a selection of the shape layer and then contract that selection and delete the area out here that we don't want on the header variation. So holding down Control, we're just going to click on the thumbnail of the shape layer to load up that selection, like so, as we have done before. We can see the dotted line around it now. We'll contract the selection as we have done in the past. If you can remember that, that is select, modify and contract. Click. And we want to do that by 4 pixels. As you can see, the selection has shrunk now, so it's inside the beveled area, which is exactly what we need. Now at the moment we have the inside of here selected. What we actually want is the outside area. To do that, we're going to inverse the selection. Basically, we're going to, instead of having everything inside there selected, we're going to select everything outside of there. And to do that, we can either press on the keyboard, we can hold down Control and Shift together and press I on the keyboard. Alternatively, we won't do that. What we'll do is we'll go up to the menu Select here and Inverse. As you can see, there's the shortcut that I just told you, Control, Shift and I. So if I just click on there, what you can see now is the dotted line has actually changed, so it's now encompassing everything outside the selection rather than inside there. And that's exactly what we want. So making sure that we have the header variation layer selected, we're just going to hit backspace to delete everything within this area. And as you can see now, it's disappeared from there and it's no longer over our bevel area, which is exactly what we wanted. So I'll just hold the marquee tool down and just click anywhere in there just to release the selection. And that's good. So we have this black area here. It's roughly positioned where we want it. We can, of course, with using the move tool, we can move that around a little bit. If you hold shift down, that will just make sure that it stays on the same level and outside of that bevel area. So yeah, if we're happy with that there, what we need to do next is, because that's far too strong, we're just going to knock the opacity down, and that wants to be down at 25%. Enter. So there you can see, it's a very, very subtle effect, but it just breaks up that blue colour of the header and just gives us a nice patch of a darker colour there across the header. And we'll move that over to the right very slightly. Or you can position that any way you want, and of course we can reposition that towards the end of the project as we feel like. Good. So if you move on to the next video, we'll concentrate on the white highlight area.